Welcome to the Irish Pagan School podcast. Your hosts are authors and co-founders of the Irish Pagan School here in County Waterford, Ireland, Laura O'Brien and Jon O'Sullivan. Fáilte.
Is Lughnasa really about the god Lugh? Well, Tailtiu agus fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School. And you might be forgiven for being confused by that because Lughnasa is still the Irish word for the month of August in Ireland, but it's also in reference to the Lughnasa Games or the harvest period of our ancient cycle. And of course, Lughnasa, Lugh being this ancient god of the Tuatha Dé Danann, you'd be forgiven for like saying, okay, well, obviously literally has his name on it, so it must be about him. Well, you'd actually be wrong. The Lughnasa Games, though created by Lugh, were created to honor somebody else. And the person he was honoring is one of the lesser known goddesses of Ireland's mythology. And that goddess is Tailtiu. Now, Tailtiu is not as recognized and revered as the rest of the Tuatha Dé Danann because she's not actually a Tuatha Dé Danann. And this is where things get very interesting when we look at Tailtiu. So as we go through the narratives and the stories, we have the origins of Lugh being a cast-out child of his grandfather Balor, because there was a prophecy that Balor would be slain by one of his grandchildren. So Lugh has survived. He's saved from the sea by Manan and MacLear, and in one version of the tales, he's taken and placed in foster care with Tailtiu. Now, Tailtiu is not Tuatha Dé Danann. Tailtiu is Firbolg. So Tailtiu is said to be the daughter of the great Mag Mór, but she's also married. She's the wife of the chieftain Ochu Garb, who is Firbolg. And so her position and her rank and her status as Firbolg is quite clear within the stories, but also the fact that she's not in any way diminished or lessened in her rank, in her kind of position within society after the Second Battle of Moytura, where the Tuatha Dé Danann take ownership of Ireland or take control of Ireland, really, or authority over Ireland from the Firbolg. So this child brought from the sea, this child of prophecy, is placed in care of Tailtiu. Now we know Lugh grows up to become Il Donach, he of the many interlinked talents, and though it's not said in any way, it might be his innate ability, it might be his own curiosity that leads him to explore all of that. The person who makes that possible is the household in which he was raised. So we have to maybe add on some aspect or some question around, well, how was he able to access all of these various types of knowledge, to learn all of those types of knowledge, if it wasn't for the House of Tailtiu being full of that knowledge? Now, Tailtiu is not in the classic sense an earth goddess. Like, there's this kind of earth mother, this like, and people put a lot of different connotations into that when you say it. But Tailtiu is a very earthly deity, very much connected to the landscape. And we see that in the story of how Tailtiu came to her end, but also how Lughnasa Games began. And when we look at there's a number of different sources we look at. There is the Hienicus, which is the lore of names and places, but there's also the Ban Hienicus, which is the lore of women. And in here we have a lovely excerpt which I thought I'd pull out and maybe read for you because it covers exactly how important Tailtiu is to the landscape, to the emergence of agriculture on the island, but then also to the people after the fact. So I'm going to read this here for you. Great that deed that was done with the axe's help by Tailtiu, the reclaiming of meadowland from the even wood by Tailtiu, daughter of Mag Mór. When the fair wood was cut down by her, roots and all, out of the ground, before the year's end, it became Bregmag. It became a plain blossoming with clover. Her heart burst in her body from the strain beneath her royal vest. Long was the sorrow, long the weariness of Tailtiu in sickness after heavy toil. The men of the island Veran, to whom she was in bondage, came to receive her last behest. She told them in her sickness, feeble was she was, but not speechless, that they should hold funeral games to lament her. White-sided Tailtiu uttered in her land a true prophecy, that so long as every prince should accept her, Erin should not be without perfect song. A fair with gold, with silver, with games, with music of chariots, with adornment of body of the soul by means of knowledge and eloquence. A fair without wounding or robbing of any man, without trouble, without dispute, without reaving, without challenge, without property, without suing, without law sessions, without evasion, without arrest. A fair without sin, without fraud, without reproach, without insult, without contention, without seizure, without theft, without redemption, no man going to the seat of the women, no woman going to the seat of the men, shining fair, but each in due order by rank of his place in the high fair. So we have records, both mythological here, about the origins of Lughnasadh and Lughnasadh games. Lugh, of course, being king in Ireland, foster son of Tailtiu, made sure that this happened and made sure that the Lughnasadh games were, as defined by Tailtiu, a place for a varied expression. It wasn't just physical games. It wasn't some form of physical Olympics. It was that and more. There was space made for art, for craft, for expression, for knowledge, for poetry. All of these different engagements were at the Lughnasadh Games. Um, Historically speaking, it is believed that the first Lughnasadh Games may have been held as far back as 1600 BCE, before Common Era, but we know that there are records of Lughnasadh Games being held between the 6th and the 9th century in Ireland. And so we can say that this practice was carried on from these prophetic origins of Tailtiu's request or last request from her deathbed. It fell out of use post-Norman invasion, which is in the 11th to the 13th century Common Era. But that still means that for hundreds of years, for centuries, the Lughnasadh Games continued on the island of Ireland. The Gaelic League and the revivals that came around the return of Irish culture led to them trying to reinstate the games, the Lughnasadh Games. And for a period during the 19th century, Lughnasadh Games were actually held. But unfortunately, there was a bit of a political dispute. It went political, unfortunately, and that's where it was no longer supported in the way it should be. And that's why the Lughnasadh Games again faded away. Um, there are still, though, places in the country, there are still memory and knowledge of this myth. There are still expressions of art and physical behavior and like riling and challenges that we have from our tribal nature, which honors a lot of the efforts that are done around Lughnasa, which is August, which is this harvest period of the Irish year. So, hopefully, this has been interesting for you. If you'd like to know more about lesser known goddesses of Ireland, not only two of the Danann deities, I actually have a class on that at the Irish Pagan School. It's called Rediscovering Hidden Irish Goddesses. And I will probably pop a link down below for that there if you want to know more about other goddesses. Cliona, Anya, who else do I cover? Oh gosh, it is literally, again, that don't come straight to my mind, which is the sadness of it. Oh, Fleish. Yeah, Fleish is a great one. Fleish is said to have had two herds, one of cattle, but also one of deer. All of the deer of the wild woods were said to be Fleish's cattle, and she, unlike anyone else, could milk the deer. So, yeah, if you would like to know more about these lesser known goddesses, please do check out that class at the Irish Pagan School. And until next time, look after yourself, take care, agus slán. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a positive review in your podcast listener. Then head over to irishpaganschool.com and enroll in one of our free or paid courses. Slán go fóill and we will see you next time.